Have you ever seen a dog wait by the door for 3 whole years, ears perked, eyes hopeful, never understanding why his human never came back? In a cold prison cell far away, Evelyn dreamed of Rex every night, wishing she could tell him she never meant to leave him behind. If you've ever felt the pure loyalty of an animal touch your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share, because sometimes true innocence needs a voice like yours to be heard. The dawn broke quietly over the gentle hills of Meadowbrook, casting a soft golden glow on Evelyn Harper's sprawling home. Usually filled with warmth and laughter, this morning brought only cold, biting silence. Evelyn Harper, a woman whose radiant beauty and kindness had long been the pride of the town, sat motionless in the back of a police cruiser, eyes distant, reflecting disbelief. Her long chestnut hair framed a face of elegant sorrow, her soft blue eyes glistening with unshed tears. Evelyn had always moved gracefully through life, carrying herself with quiet dignity. Now, shackled by accusations as sharp as knives, she was a mere shadow of herself. From the large front window, Rex, a proud yet gentle German shepherd, stared helplessly as the vehicle carried Evelyn away. He was 5 years old, his sleek coat a striking mix of black and tan, his eyes deep amber, intelligent yet now clouded with confusion and anxiety. Evelyn had rescued him from certain death at the Meadowbrook shelter 3 years prior. From that day forward, Rex vowed an unspoken loyalty to the woman who had gifted him a second chance. Yet today, Rex felt lost. Evelyn had never before left without speaking to him, without gently stroking his thick fur and whispering, "I'll be back soon, sweet boy." He paced nervously through the empty house, every corner still echoing her presence, the fragrance of her lavender perfume lingering in the air, the familiar hum of her voice replaced only by crushing silence. As the hours stretched painfully long, Rex moved to the front porch, laying his head upon his paws, eyes never leaving the driveway. He waited, ears alert, heart hoping Evelyn would soon return, that the dreadful sight of flashing lights and stern-faced officers would fade like a bad dream. The first signs of distress reached Evelyn's neighbors quickly, for Meadowbrook was a place where secrets rarely stayed hidden. John Miller, the elderly neighbor with thinning gray hair and kind, crinkled eyes, approached the house slowly, carrying a leash. John had known Evelyn since she was a child, watched her grow into a beloved figure in town, always offering kindness and care to others. His eyes filled with sorrow as he saw Rex waiting desperately on the porch. "Come here, boy," John said gently, voice thick with emotion. Rex hesitated, looking at the old man with wary confusion, unsure why this man he knew well suddenly seemed like a stranger. John knelt, extending his hand cautiously. "Evelyn asked me to look after you, Rex. You remember me, don't you?" Rex stared uncertainly, then finally relented, padding slowly toward John. The older man attached the leash and led Rex away, though each step felt like an agonizing betrayal to the loyal shepherd. Each glance backward, longing for the woman who had become his entire world. As Rex settled into John's modest home across the street, his confusion only deepened. From the living room window, he could still see Evelyn's house, standing tall but empty, the sunlight dancing cruelly over closed windows. John's home was comfortable, yet unfamiliar smells and noises made Rex restless. Despite John's soothing voice and gentle hands, nothing filled the emptiness left by Evelyn. At night, Rex lay awake, ears pricked, hoping desperately for the faint sound of Evelyn's car pulling into the driveway, for the familiar creak of her front door opening. Memories flooded his mind. Evelyn's joyous laughter, her calming whispers during thunderstorms, and the warmth of her hands gently scratching behind his ears. He whimpered softly into the dark, unable to understand why she had vanished so suddenly. Days turned into a blurred, monotonous stretch of waiting. Meadowbrook, once vibrant with friendly greetings and bustling community life, now whispered quietly of tragedy and suspicion. Rex sensed it, even if he couldn't comprehend. Neighbors averted their gazes, their usual smiles replaced by cautious sympathy or wary glances toward Evelyn's empty home. One rainy evening, Rex stood by John's door, eyes fixed unwaveringly on Evelyn's darkened house. The rain tapped gently on the windowpane, matching the rhythm of Rex's aching heart. John approached slowly, placing a comforting hand upon Rex's fur. "She didn't do this, boy," John whispered, voice breaking with conviction. "We know her. She loved Mark. She loved everyone, especially you. The truth will come out." But Rex did not understand truth or guilt, justice or accusations. All he knew was that Evelyn, his protector, his family, his heart, was missing, and the pain in his chest felt unbearably heavy. He laid his head softly against John's leg, closing his eyes, praying silently in his own canine way that the warmth and kindness he'd once known would return, and the darkness engulfing their lives would soon lift. Winter had settled heavily upon the women's penitentiary in rural Wisconsin, coating the high, forbidding walls in layers of ice and snow, further isolating those confined within. Evelyn Harper found herself trapped not only by bars and concrete, but by a deepening sense of isolation and despair. Her beauty, once admired by friends and neighbors, now seemed only to fuel suspicion and jealousy among fellow inmates. Evelyn's soft, expressive blue eyes, so often filled with warmth, had dulled, shadowed by sleepless nights and the crushing weight of her wrongful sentence. Her chestnut hair, once carefully styled, now fell loosely around her thin shoulders, neglected as her fading spirit. At meals, Evelyn sat alone, the prison cafeteria buzzing with whispered rumors and sidelong glances. Inmates avoided her, convinced she was guilty of her wealthy husband's death, a crime she could never fathom committing. Each cold stare, each bitter whisper chipped away at her resilience, leaving behind only quiet sorrow. Evelyn had always thrived on companionship and affection, but here, behind invisible walls built of mistrust, she felt utterly abandoned. In her small cell at night, Evelyn lay awake, haunted by memories of Mark, her late husband. She recalled their happier moments, strolling hand in hand through Meadowbrook's quiet parks, his deep laughter resonating with comfort and love. Now, even those precious memories had been poisoned by accusations, forcing her to question every smile, every gentle touch they once shared. Yet, amidst the darkest hours, it was thoughts of Rex that brought both solace and heartache. The German Shepherd's comforting presence was painfully absent, leaving a void no human companionship could fill. Hundreds of miles away, in John Miller's small, cozy house across from Evelyn's former home, Rex faced his own imprisonment. John, elderly and compassionate, with weathered hands and gentle eyes that spoke of patience earned over decades, did everything he could to ease Rex's sorrow. Yet, the German Shepherd's soulful amber eyes gazed perpetually towards Evelyn's empty porch, his ears perking hopefully at every distant sound. Rex refused to leave the front door, his thick coat growing dull and unkempt from neglecting food and play. Neighbors passing by could see Rex through the window, curled up against the cold glass, waiting faithfully for a woman they all believed had betrayed their trust. Some stopped briefly, shaking their heads sadly, remarking how tragic it was, though whether they spoke of Evelyn's fate or Rex's silent suffering, nobody truly knew. One particularly harsh night, a heavy snowstorm blanketed Meadowbrook, transforming familiar streets into alien landscapes of ice and shadows. John awoke to find Rex had slipped out unnoticed, paws leaving frantic tracks, disappearing into the blizzard. Panic surged through John's aging heart as he grabbed his coat and boots, stumbling into the freezing darkness, calling desperately for Rex. Fear tightened around him, not just for the dog's safety, but for Evelyn, whose heart would surely break if anything happened to the companion who loved her unconditionally. John finally found Rex at the gates of Evelyn's former home, shivering violently, snow caking his fur, eyes locked hopelessly on the house's darkened windows. John's heart ached, recognizing that Rex's devotion ran far deeper than anyone realized. Kneeling beside the trembling German Shepherd, John gently wrapped his old woolen coat around Rex's damp fur. "I know you miss her," John whispered softly, voice breaking with emotion. "I miss her too, boy. But you can't stay out here. She wouldn't want that." Reluctantly, Rex allowed John to guide him back to warmth and safety, yet his spirit remained tethered to Evelyn, their bond refusing to weaken, even through relentless separation. John, understanding Rex's unspoken grief, made a quiet promise as they returned home to do whatever he could to support Evelyn, and by extension, the dog whose loyalty knew no bounds. Back within prison walls, Evelyn stirred restlessly, sensing something beyond understanding, a strange pull deep within her chest, a sensation she'd felt many times before when Rex needed comfort or reassurance. Lying still in the dim moonlight seeping through barred windows, Evelyn whispered into the emptiness, "Stay strong, Rex. I'm still here. Please don't forget me." Tears trickled softly down her cheeks, carrying silent prayers that somehow, through the cold walls separating them, Rex might feel her love and remain hopeful. But prisons, she realized bitterly, were built of more than just brick and steel. They thrived on hopelessness, feeding on despair. Evelyn knew she must cling to whatever shred of hope she could, not only for herself but for Rex, whose faithful heart deserved far better than a lifetime spent waiting by a door that might never reopen. The bitter chill of another Wisconsin winter had begun to soften, signaling an early spring that promised hope to those who still dared believe. At Meadow Ridge Women's Correctional Facility, Evelyn Harper received unexpected news that left her breathless. A special therapy program had been approved, allowing selected inmates to reunite briefly with their beloved pets. Evelyn's heart quickened at the thought of seeing Rex again, her loyal German shepherd whom she hadn't touched or embraced in 3 painfully long years. On a quiet afternoon, Amanda Carter, a compassionate young correctional officer in her early 30s, with curly auburn hair tied neatly behind her cap and gentle green eyes that hinted at deep empathy, approached Evelyn's cell. Amanda had always sensed something different about Evelyn, something genuine and sorrowful beneath the layers of accusation and mistrust. "Miss Harper," she began softly, "your dog is here. It's time." Evelyn stood slowly, her blue eyes wide, her heart pounding. As Amanda escorted her through the sterile corridors toward the visitation room, Evelyn felt as though she were floating. Anxiety and joy blended into an overwhelming wave of emotion. Amanda watched Evelyn closely, observing her shaking hands and quickened breath, silently questioning how such profound love could possibly belong to someone guilty of cold-hearted murder. Meanwhile, outside the visitation room, Rex paced nervously. Now 8 years old, his fur streaked faintly with silver, his amber eyes retaining a depth of intelligence and gentleness despite years of grief. John Miller stood beside him, gently stroking Rex's fur to calm his trembling body. "She's here, Rex," John whispered reassuringly. "It's finally time." The door opened slowly, and Evelyn stepped hesitantly into the room. Rex froze, his eyes meeting Evelyn's instantly, recognition lighting up his entire body. His tail wagged frantically, ears perking, as a joyful bark erupted from his throat. Evelyn gasped softly, covering her mouth as tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. "Rex," she whispered brokenly, sinking to her knees. Rex bounded forward, his large paws sliding slightly across the polished floor as he collided gently into Evelyn's embrace. She buried her face deeply into his thick fur, sobbing quietly, her slender fingers trembling as she held him tightly. Memories of past days flooded back, every playful run through the park, every gentle morning greeting, every whispered promise she ever made to him. Rex nuzzled her cheek tenderly, his warm breath comforting, his soft whines mirroring her deep longing. Standing by the door, Amanda Carter's breath caught painfully in her chest as she watched this raw, beautiful reunion. Doubts she'd long harbored about Evelyn's guilt deepened profoundly. She saw only tenderness, only love, the kind that felt too genuine to belong to a woman capable of cruelty or betrayal. Amanda's green eyes softened further, her resolve solidifying quietly within her heart to reconsider everything she had assumed about Evelyn Harper. The visitation room faded into silence as Evelyn finally lifted her tear-streaked face to meet Rex's trusting gaze, her voice barely audible as she spoke gently. "I never stopped thinking about you, Rex. Every day, every night, you've been my strength. Forgive me for leaving you alone." Rex tilted his head, sensing Evelyn's sorrow, offering gentle licks to her trembling hands, reassuring her as if to say there was nothing to forgive. Evelyn smiled faintly, brushing her fingers through his familiar fur, relishing the warmth she had missed so painfully. For these precious few moments, the invisible walls around her crumbled, replaced only by an unbreakable bond of unconditional love. From the hallway, John Miller watched quietly, his old eyes misting. The reunion filled his heart with quiet joy and aching sorrow, knowing their separation would soon resume. Beside him, Amanda gently placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "I can't help but wonder," she whispered softly. "Could we have made a mistake?" John turned slowly to face Amanda, his voice gentle, yet filled with quiet conviction. "I've never doubted her innocence, not for one moment." Back inside, Evelyn reluctantly rose, understanding their brief meeting must end. Rex watched her closely, his eyes searching hers anxiously as she whispered softly, "Stay strong, my sweet boy. We'll be together again, I promise." Evelyn stepped backwards slowly, tears renewing as Rex's body tensed in confusion, his eyes pleading silently for her to stay. Amanda guided Evelyn gently back toward the hallway, leaving Rex standing alone, watching the door close, his ears drooping slowly, carrying a renewed sense of loss but also an unspoken promise of hope. As Evelyn returned to her cell, Amanda watched carefully, her heart newly determined. She silently promised herself she would no longer remain passive, no longer accept the easy story. It was time to find the truth, both for Evelyn Harper, the woman she was beginning to believe, and for Rex, whose unwavering loyalty deserved nothing less than justice. As days passed quietly at Meadow Ridge Women's Correctional Facility, Amanda Carter found herself increasingly preoccupied. Evelyn Harper's emotional reunion with Rex lingered vividly in her thoughts, urging Amanda toward answers she could no longer ignore. Determined to revisit Evelyn's case, Amanda discreetly contacted Patrick Hayes, a respected local detective in his mid-40s. Patrick, tall and lean with thoughtful hazel eyes and short, carefully groomed brown hair touched by silver at the temples, was known for his meticulous dedication to truth and justice. They agreed to meet quietly at John Miller's home, sensing the elderly neighbor could provide clarity and a trusted perspective on Evelyn. Inside John's cozy living room, surrounded by photographs of simpler times, Amanda voiced her suspicions gently but firmly. Patrick listened closely, absorbing every detail with a calm intensity that matched his quietly observant nature. As Amanda spoke, Rex, the loyal German shepherd, lay silently at John's feet, ears perking occasionally, his intelligent amber eyes fixed intently on the unfamiliar visitors. Now nearly 8, his deep, watchful gaze suggested an instinctive understanding beyond ordinary canine perception. Patrick carefully reviewed the evidence presented at Evelyn's trial, quickly noticing troubling discrepancies. "This doesn't add up," Patrick murmured thoughtfully, glancing up at John. Was there anyone else who had reason to harm Mark Harper? Perhaps someone he trusted? John Miller hesitated briefly, his weathered face drawn with concern. "Mark's business partner, Daniel Prescott," John finally admitted softly. "Daniel was like a brother to Mark, but I always sensed something bitter beneath their friendship, something Mark refused to acknowledge." With renewed focus, Amanda and Patrick began delving deeper, examining old records and discreetly revisiting witness statements. Rex stayed close beside them, his presence quiet, yet comforting, as though intuitively sensing their shared purpose. Each evening, after long hours of investigation, Patrick and Amanda returned to John's home, the three of them working late into the night by the gentle glow of the kitchen light. Rex lay watchfully nearby, head resting upon his paws, seemingly alert to every conversation, every tense silence. One crisp morning, while reviewing financial records, Patrick discovered unexplained transactions pointing toward Daniel Prescott. Money moved suspiciously, hidden beneath carefully disguised business deals, traced subtly to accounts under Prescott's control. Patrick's heart quickened with realization. This was no simple coincidence. Amanda watched closely, noting Patrick's tense posture as he quietly revealed the findings. Prescott had motive and opportunity, Patrick explained gravely. "But we still lack direct proof," he framed Evelyn. Just then, Rex rose suddenly, ears alert, staring intently out the window toward Evelyn's empty house across the street. Amanda and Patrick exchanged puzzled glances as Rex paced restlessly, clearly agitated. "What's wrong, Rex?" Amanda murmured softly, sensing his sudden urgency. Patrick followed Rex's gaze thoughtfully, noticing something he hadn't considered before. "Prescott often visited Mark and Evelyn," John interjected quietly, "especially during Mark's business trips. I'd seen him entering their home frequently, even when Evelyn wasn't there." Intrigued, Patrick and Amanda decided to investigate Evelyn's former home once more, following Rex's silent insistence. With John's permission, they entered carefully, the air inside heavy with memories of happier times. Rex moved purposefully through the house, his senses heightened, pausing occasionally to sniff the familiar air. At last, Rex led them to Mark's old study, standing rigidly before a locked drawer neither Amanda nor Patrick had previously examined. Patrick gently pried open the drawer, discovering a concealed compartment filled with documents meticulously forged by Daniel Prescott, letters, financial agreements, and even a carefully altered will, all pointing falsely toward Evelyn's guilt. Amanda's eyes widened in disbelief. "These documents weren't part of the investigation," she whispered, feeling sorrow for Evelyn's unjust suffering. Rex stood quietly beside them, eyes filled with an unmistakable clarity, as though satisfied that he had finally guided them toward the truth. Patrick carefully gathered the documents, determined now to bring justice to Evelyn Harper. Amanda reached down softly to stroke Rex's head, whispering, "You knew all along, didn't you, boy?" Rex gazed upward gently, his intelligent eyes expressing relief and quiet dignity. Their silent exchange spoke volumes, a bond of trust and understanding that transcended mere words. As evening fell over Meadowbrook, Amanda and Patrick departed solemnly from Evelyn's home, gratitude filling their hearts for the loyal German shepherd whose unwavering instincts had proven crucial. They knew now their fight for Evelyn was far from over, but at last they held something precious, a clear path to justice, illuminated gently by Rex's unwavering devotion. News of Evelyn Harper's exoneration spread swiftly through Meadowbrook, shattering the quiet town's long-held silence. The once skeptical community, shaken deeply by the truth revealed about Daniel Prescott's betrayal, now waited anxiously outside the courthouse as Evelyn stepped into the bright sunlight, finally free. Her chestnut hair, newly combed and shining softly in the sun, framed a face no longer shadowed by grief. Her gentle blue eyes were clear, yet still carried traces of the deep sorrow she endured. A murmur rippled through the gathered townspeople, each voice hushed with shame and newfound compassion. Evelyn paused briefly, breathing deeply the fresh, sweet air of freedom, before spotting John Miller standing at the edge of the crowd. His gentle smile, wrinkled warmly with relief and pride, touched her heart deeply. Beside him stood Amanda Carter, her green eyes shimmering softly with tears, and Detective Patrick Hayes, his reserved expression quietly triumphant, carrying a sense of closure earned through dedicated pursuit of justice. Yet amidst the faces and gentle whispers, Evelyn's heart searched desperately for one figure, Rex. Then, suddenly, from the distance came a familiar, joyful bark that brought tears instantly to her eyes. Evelyn turned swiftly to see Rex bounding toward her, his black and tan coat glossy again, his expressive amber eyes filled with excitement. He leapt eagerly into her arms, nearly knocking her off balance, and Evelyn laughed, a sound so full of joy it startled even herself. "Oh, Rex," she whispered, burying her face into his thick fur. "I'm finally home." The townspeople watched in silent awe as Evelyn knelt, hugging her beloved German shepherd tightly, their reunion radiating warmth and forgiveness. As Evelyn rose, she gently rested her hand on Rex's sturdy shoulders, finding courage in his quiet strength. With a graceful dignity, she faced the crowd, meeting the regretful eyes of her neighbors without resentment. "I know you all had reason to doubt," Evelyn began softly, her voice carrying clearly, "but let's put those doubts behind us. Today is about healing, not bitterness. Meadowbrook was always my home, and I forgive anyone who felt unsure of me. I only ask we learn from this and do better for each other." A heartfelt applause rippled softly through the crowd, and many approached Evelyn, offering sincere apologies and gentle embraces. Rex stood loyally by her side, his calm presence easing the awkwardness of reconciliation, his intelligent gaze seemingly understanding the moment's significance. Amanda Carter stepped forward quietly, eyes glistening with humility. "Your strength taught me a valuable lesson," Amanda said sincerely, gently clasping Evelyn's hand. "I promise to help others who have been wrongly accused. No one should suffer alone again." Touched deeply by Amanda's vow, Evelyn smiled softly, her eyes filled with gratitude and newfound purpose. Detective Patrick Hayes, standing nearby, nodded in quiet agreement. "We'll all make sure your experience changes lives," he assured Evelyn firmly, his tone solemn and sincere. Returning to her home, Evelyn felt both excitement and apprehension. Her familiar porch stood unchanged, yet Evelyn herself had transformed profoundly. Inside, everything felt quietly comforting, yet oddly distant. Rex walked slowly at her side, sensing her unease, gently nudging her hand as if reassuring her of his unwavering companionship. Evelyn knelt beside him, stroking his soft fur slowly, drawing strength from the one constant that had never abandoned her. "Thank you, Rex," she whispered softly, "for believing in me when no one else did. You're my greatest gift." That evening, Evelyn stood outside in the soft glow of twilight, watching stars gently awaken above. Rex lay quietly at her feet, his calm breathing a soothing melody. Evelyn knew that healing would take time, not just for herself, but for the community that had struggled with judgment and fear. But beneath that vast sky, she vowed silently never to let her suffering remain meaningless. Instead, Evelyn would become a voice for justice, compassion, and forgiveness, a beacon of hope for those unjustly accused. Weeks passed gently, and Evelyn's commitment grew steadily stronger. Alongside Amanda, Patrick, and John, she organized support groups for former prisoners wrongly convicted, providing comfort, advocacy, and a compassionate ear. Rex accompanied her frequently, his gentle nature comforting others as it had comforted Evelyn. Together, they became symbols of resilience and empathy within the community. One quiet afternoon, Evelyn stood beneath a blossoming oak tree in the town park, addressing a small gathering about second chances and forgiveness. Rex lay quietly beside her, his wise eyes calmly watching those listening attentively. Evelyn's voice, gentle yet confident, carried softly through the breeze. "My journey was painful, but it taught me to cherish compassion and understanding. Let's never forget, every soul deserves justice, every heart deserves compassion, and every story deserves to be heard." Applause broke gently through the silence, and Evelyn glanced lovingly down at Rex, whose steady gaze seemed to affirm every word spoken. She knew her life would never be the same, but with Rex beside her, the path ahead felt hopeful, purposeful, and beautifully illuminated with kindness and grace. Finally, Evelyn Harper had truly found her road home. Sometimes, the purest lessons about loyalty, sacrifice, and unconditional love come not from grand gestures, but from the quiet, steadfast companionship of a devoted heart. Rex taught Evelyn, and all of us, that even in the darkest hours, true loyalty never wavers, and love is the one force strong enough to guide us back home. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel, because every voice matters, and together we can continue sharing the stories that truly inspire and heal.